So, one of the biggest questions that homeowners have, especially over the last couple of years that I've been speaking to, is when they are thinking about selling, they're worried about, well, where am I going to end up living? I still need to purchase another property. So, when they start even thinking about it, they start asking themselves, like, how do I sell my home if I still need to find a place, if I still need to find somewhere to live? And it is a completely understandable concern. And it's something that before I got into the business, it wasn't something I thought about. But as I've helped more and more homeowners throughout the years, it's been a conversation that we've had time and time again. Because selling and buying at the same time can kind of feel like trying to solve a puzzle where all of the pieces have to line up perfectly, right? You kind of get what I'm saying, right? You might be wondering, do I sell first? Do I buy first? What happens if my home sells before I even find the next one? It's definitely something to think about, right? On the other hand, what happens if I buy first and then my current home doesn't sell as quickly as anticipated? Yet another scenario that could be a reality, right? So these are real questions. And the good news is that there are strategies that can make this process much, much smoother than what people actually expect. Today, I want to walk you through how sellers approach this in New York and how the right planning can actually help you move forward with clarity instead of with just, unbearable stress, right? So let's start with why this situation feels so overwhelming for many homeowners. When you're selling your primary residence, you're not just making a financial decision. You're making a true lifestyle transition. And there is uncertainty in both of those directions. You're selling something you already have while at the same time trying to secure the next place you'll live. And without a clear plan, it can honestly feel like you're stepping into the complete unknown, right? But when you understand the timelines and the options available, well, then the process becomes way more manageable. So let's talk about option one, selling first. So one of the most common strategies is selling your current home first. This approach gives you something very valuable if you think of it this way, and that is certainty. Once your home is under contract, you know exactly what your proceeds will likely be. You know your timeline, and you can begin shopping for your next home with confidence. Now, just to pause here, what is the reason that I say when your home is under contract? Well, if you're shopping around and your home hasn't even been put on the market or was just put on the market, an offer on another property is contingent on the sale of your home. So that puts the other seller at risk where they have to wait for you to find a buyer. On the other hand, if you're under contract, you're a little more secure. You're getting closer to that successful end zone, that successful finish line of actually getting your home sold. So you already have secured the hardest part, which is finding a buyer. So your offer would be considered a little more strongly, not a little, a lot more strongly than somebody that just had their home on the market and they're waiting to find that buyer, right? So once you are under contract, now you can actually begin shopping. In New York, so we're talking about in Queens, in Brooklyn, Long Island, the other boroughs and the surrounding areas, the closing timelines are often around 60 to 90 days. This window can give sellers time to search for the next property. Sometimes buyers are also flexible with closing dates or short term occupancy arrangements. So selling first often reduces the financial risk. The trade off is you may need to move more quickly when you begin your home search. Now, to pause it there, when you are selling your home, you are in the driver's seat. So when you are looking for a potential buyer, you're looking for two things. You're looking for a buyer that is financially able to purchase the property at the offer price or the price that you would agree to, right? Regardless of what the listing price is, once you come to an agreement, you're agreeing to a price and you're agreeing to terms. So when you have your home on the market, one of the things that I suggest for my clients is when we're talking to buyers about their offers, make sure that the flexible timeline is included in that. What do I mean? Well, if you have a buyer that, let's say, is renting month to month, has a lease that is already over, they just want to buy something, so they're month to month, so they can actually A lot of them have been shopping around. There's limited inventory at the moment, so they can give you a little bit of extra time in order for you to purchase that home. So you can actually add some additional time into that already built in 60 to 90 days if necessary at the beginning. Another thing is you can have, occupancy post closing, but you don't want to do that too much because usually that's going to end up with some type of fee of you renting the house back for a time. What I suggest is trying to negotiate a little added time before that, right? There's also the potential to offer the buyer the possibility of it being contingent on you finding a place where we would speak to everyone involved, speak to the attorneys, and try to see if it's possible for the buyer to be amenable to a situation where they will not be able to close on the house until you find a place. So that is there. It's a little trickier to get and it doesn't always work, but it's something that can be at least asked about, at least negotiated. So keep that in mind because I don't think that that option is discussed enough. And as markets change, that option can either increase or decrease. But if you have buyers that are highly motivated, that have not found something or that have been losing out on multiple opportunities, they may be able to give you that added time, added flexibility, and a cutoff date to the contract as well, where they're not going to wait an exorbitant amount of time, nor are you going to wait an exorbitant amount of time to find a property, right? So that's one little tidbit, a little strategy that not many people talk about. And two, you buy first. So that's another option. It's where you buy your next home before you sell a current one. It happens all the time. This strategy can feel a little more comfortable emotionally because you've already secured your next place. The main thing here is that it requires financial planning. You'll have a meeting with your lender, and lenders will evaluate whether you can carry both properties temporarily or whether your purchase needs to be contingent on the sale of your current home. So that is something to keep in mind, and it's going to be something that you'll be, negotiating, and something where your real estate agent, your favorite realtor, your favorite real estate agent will help you negotiate and navigate. For some homeowners, this works well, especially if they have strong equity or they have the financial flexibility. But it's important to understand the financial implications before taking this path. Now, we kind of touched on this before, but the contingency strategies. So sometimes the solution involves contingencies. So a purchase offer may include a clause that allows you to buy the new home only if your current home sells. So that's something you would be discussing with your agent, but with your attorney here in New York to structure that contract. In competitive markets, this can make offers less attractive to sellers because, in reality, I will buy your home if I can sell my home versus somebody that's already financed where all they have to do is either give the cash offer or they just go in with it being contingent on being approved for a mortgage, right? So it's a little less risky for that seller of the property you're trying to buy. Again, in competitive markets, this can make the offer less attractive to sellers, but depending on market conditions, it can still be a workable strategy. So this is where having a clear plan and experienced guidance becomes really, really important because structuring the timing correctly can make a big difference in how smooth this transition is going to feel. And then you have the backup plans, right? You have temporary housing options. And other options that many sellers don't initially consider is temporary housing. But we've had clients several times do that in the past where sometimes sellers will close on their home, they'll secure their proceeds, and they'll move into short-term housing while they search for their next property. Now, this could include, short-term rentals, extended stay housing, or staying with family temporarily, maybe some close ones that might have some extra room. While the approach isn't for everyone, it can actually remove a lot of pressure from the process. And one of the things to consider is if you're getting offers that are really, really financially beneficial to you, where it could really be life-changing, or it can be just an offer you can't refuse, this is a good option to have in the back of your mind. So start choosing wisely on who you would move in with, because instead of rushing into the next purchase, this will help you make that decision calmly and thoughtfully. You just have to make sure to have the who and the where set up. Now, the most important part of everything is planning. The key to selling and buying successfully, it's not guessing, it's not hoping, it's planning. Now, when you understand that, when you understand your home's likely market value, your expected proceeds, your financing options, your timeline, and you build a strategy that works for your particular situation. Every homeowner's circumstances are different, right? So prioritize, some sellers, some homeowners prioritize convenience. Others prioritize minimizing financial risk, right? And then some prioritize timing around school schedules or work transitions. So the right strategy really depends on a full picture, right? What are you comfortable with your timeline being, and what do you need your timeline to be, right? So selling your home while planning your next move doesn't have to feel chaotic. I've already walked you through the different scenarios, and with the right preparation, the right timeline, the right strategy, it can actually really go smoothly. It can be a smooth transition. The goal isn't perfection, it's clarity. It's knowing your options. And when you have clarity, the decisions become way, way easier. So if you find yourself in this situation where you're thinking about buying or selling first, or selling and then buying, feel free to reach out. Let's have a strategy session. Let's have a meeting, 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how many questions you have, to determine what strategy is the right one, or what combination of strategies would work best for you. And have plan A, and always have a plan B. So if you know somebody in that situation, or you're in that situation, or thinking about becoming involved in that situation, you can reach out to me at 917-982-8899. Again, 917-982-8899. And of course, you can always connect with me. Either you can get to know me a little more by going to my YouTube channel, search Sell Your Queen's Home. And of course, you can get to see what I'm up to and more tips, more behind the scenes. Get to know me by going on Instagram and just searching at David Garcia KW. So hope that was helpful. And again, any questions you might have, no question too small, no timeline too soon. Don't forget, even if it's far, far, far in the future, you can't prepare too early. So it's good to have all the answers ahead of time. So thanks so much for your time. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.